Hi, I'm Vibrating Samuels and welcome back to another episode of Soul Stirring Astrology, where I give you my texture take on the world of astrology. In this episode, I'm talking about who it is you'll be attracted to in terms of us women looking for our mates, but particularly husbands. So we know this perennial bestseller that men are from Mars and women are from Venus. Well, that's not quite true. Women are from Venus, but men are from Jupiter. And the reason why I say this is because there's a distinction in terms of the kind of archetypes of Mars and Jupiter. So Mars, yes, does represent male energy, and it pertains to lovers as well as friends and boyfriends. But it's more about where we as women have desires over the type of man that we'd be interested in. And sometimes he could be a good boy, sometimes he could be a bit of a bad boy. However, we're kind of drawn to that energy, but that isn't necessarily who we want to be building a life with, because he could be the sort of person that gives us a thrill, but doesn't have anything substantive in terms of characteristics, and that therein lies a distinction. Because I would say that Mars gives you a flavour of personality, but Jupiter gives you a sense of character, and it's character that's going to hold anybody's attention. And this is the domain of Jupiter, and the reason being is because Jupiter is the seer, the sage, the wise one. And so in terms of attracting a lifelong mate, who could then become your husband, it's a man who's able to have a vision for his own life and bring that vision into the relationship that the two of you are creating. So if we think about what Jupiter actually stands for, it's spirituality. It's about being philosophical. It's about taking a very broad perspective, widening, expanding your horizons, intellectually, because Jupiter also rules higher education. Jupiter rules the fiery houses, which is the 1st, the 5th and the 9th. And so here it's about using creative intelligence in order to enhance your world. And where you're looking at Jupiter, Jupiter in the man is broadening your experiences, broadening your identity, so that one becomes two, so that you're both feeding into each other. But there is this very much a sense of philosophy. If you have a man, for example, that has Jupiter in Sagittarius in the 9th house, then he's going to be somebody who's very well educated, very broad-minded. He might be somebody who's from another country, but equally important, he'll be very philosophical. And this type of man will be able to handle the challenges of life in a far more relaxed and philosophical way. That doesn't mean he doesn't care, but it's the ability to transcend the problem and look at it and set it in the context of philosophy. And so therefore it lessens the tension, but he's still able to move forward with this. And this is very different from the male energy that's shown through Mars, because that could be, as I say, around the desires, but there might not be anything to back it up. Jupiter is which shows the characteristics and qualities of a man in terms of his ability to provide for a family, including yourself and any children that might come along. It's his ability to generate an income and wealth so that he's able to provide a foundation. And it's not solely the man's responsibility to do this, but in terms of, from this very generic perspective, it's about his ability to create something for himself in the world, and then how he's able to bring that into a relationship. So wherever Jupiter is situated in your chart, it's also pointing to your level of spiritual understanding, because it's in your chart. And fundamentally, Jupiter is about finding happiness and peace and joy, and that has to start with you. And so Jupiter here is asking you to roll up your sleeves and to dig into yourself so that you're able to explore what is it that actually makes you happy. Because if you're happy, you're going to attract a man who's going to be equally interested in your level of happiness, and he'll bring his own. So it's not about placing the responsibility solely on a man, because nobody can do that. But it is an invitation for us as women to do our spiritual development. And so through doing the spiritual development, we're able to find this center We're able to center and balance ourselves because we have our own vision for our lives, and we are stepping into the world with that vision, and we're sharing that vision with other people. And so as you raise and heighten your awareness about what makes you tick, then you're able to share that with the world, and then whoever resonates with that energy is going to be the type of man who's able to feed into it. Say, for example, I'm not married at the moment, and I've got Jupiter in Aries, and it's in the 5th house. And so my Jupiter is an indication of the type of man that I will be attracted to is somebody who's very action orientated, because it's in Aries, and so it's a cardinal sign. So it's somebody who's logical, uses his initiative, can get things going in his own right. Jupiter also feeds into my fire trine, stellium, and it feeds into its own house, which is the 9th house. And so whoever comes into my world feeds into that energy of intuition and inspiration and having a vision. So it's a man who's able to have a vision for his own life, because we're dealing here with creative intelligence, his intuition, his perceptiveness, to have a vision and then to ground that vision and turn it into something. And the reason being is because he's very much invested in having an impact in the world. And creativity can show itself in so many different ways. Men, for example, that have Jupiter in Aries, actors, Sidney Poitier, for example, or men who kind of blend entertainment with physicality. They could be athletes or sportsmen in a variety of different ways. And two people who come to mind are Arnold Schwarzenegger as well as Bruce Lee. So somebody who's really action orientated, but also able to create something in the world for himself, and then helps to expand my horizons as well. You might be a woman, for example, that has Jupiter in Virgo. That's not the strongest place, because Jupiter is the co-ruler of Pisces, which is opposite Virgo. And so if you have Jupiter in Virgo, it's an invitation, for example, for you to become more discriminatory, more discerning in terms of who you have around you. Because you could be around people that are not helping you to grow. And the invitation here is for you to find your own source and sense of happiness, that you need to do your spiritual development. So, the elements show us the work that we need to do. If we have Jupiter, for example, in Libra, which Jupiter currently is. So here, the invitation is for you to develop your spiritual practice, develop your philosophy, and the way that you might do that is through your friendship groups, your networks, because Jupiter is in Libra, which is about relationships with others. So that's an indication as to where you may begin your spiritual development. But it's Jupiter, so therefore it's got to be your own principles, your own values, and once you understand what they are, you can then bring them and share them with the world. If you have Jupiter in a water sign, here Jupiter in Pisces, for example, here there's a deep sense of spirituality and transcendence, because you've got Pisces, which is ruled with Neptune. So both of them are dealing with the higher mind, higher consciousness, raising yourself, so you're transcending the mundanities of life, so that you're tapping into this sense of divinity. How juicy is that? Roll up your sleeves, ladies. We need to do our own work first and not rely on a man to bring that to us. But it's about identifying the qualities that he has that could enhance who you are. So that's it in terms of what it is that we as women look for when we're looking at a serious mate, somebody who could be our husband. It's not so much Mars. Mars gives you a sense of the sexual energy, for example, or the sort of public face of who he is. But if you really want to find out the character of who he is, you need to be looking to Jupiter. Now there is a way where you are able to have both. It's like, well, why can't I have both? Well, if it's in your chart, that gives you an indication. And don't forget, your chart is just a mandala that gives you a potential roadmap, but we also need to bring ourselves to our own charts. But let's say, for example, you have Mars and it's forming some type of aspect with Jupiter, then there's a sense that you can begin to harmonize the two aspects of man. So he could be somebody who's thrilling as well as somebody who's responsible and fun and intelligent and wise and all of those things that we may be looking for in relationships. So I take my own chart, I have Mars, and Mars is opposing Jupiter. Jupiter is in Mars's sign, it's in Aries, and so Mars is in Libra, and it's an opposition. And so therefore the two planets are feeding each other. So that's an indication where you've got a conjunction or a square, which might be a little bit more challenging, but nonetheless, this is where you can really begin to break through, where you've got this Jupiter and Mars forming some type of communication, some type of narrative, is a way for you to blend that. But most importantly, it's about you doing your spiritual work, understanding who you are and the principles that you shape your life by. So that's it, beautiful people. Ladies, put your comments in the comment box below. Guys, of course you can join in the conversation. You know I love to chat with you. Feel free to share this episode with anybody else in your network, and you can like and subscribe to my channel. So until then, beautiful people, take care, and I will see you again on the next episode. Bye.